The Petaluma Haystack Railroad, the third established railroad in California, stretched 2.5 miles, covering the distance from Haystack Landing into Petaluma. Rivalry marked the start of transportation services offered in Petaluma. The rivalry between Thomas Bayliss and Charles Minturn developed from the men's realization that the profit from the shipping trade would be granted to whoever developed the most efficient transportation route from Haystack into Petaluma. Bayliss started by forming a corporation to build a horse-drawn railroad from Petaluma to the steamboat landing. Many citizens, forgetting how long they had longed for such alternatives to the bone-jarring stagecoach ride, opposed it on grounds that Bayliss and his partners would have a monopoly. On August 1, 1864, Minturn commenced his operation of his 26-horsepower Atlas locomotive. Minturn's accomplishment led to a catastrophe regarding profit. His engineer quit, forcing him to hire John Leavitt, a man bearing an inferior skill for engineering. Despite the disaster of the Petaluma and Haystack Railroad, there was still hope that Petaluma would be a thriving city, with trains running from Healdsburg and the creek dredged to the wharfs. The city fathers were certain that Petaluma would take its predestined place as the second most important city in the state after San Francisco. In 1868, Isaac Wickersham, John A. McNair, and other leaders formulated a plan with the intentions of building several railroad companies that would stretch north. Despite their intentions, John A. McNair and Wickersham found themselves dependent on citizens' contributions. The men now strongly believed that the project of constructing the railroads was evidently too big a project for a little town. Petaluma was in need of a leader when Peter Donahue stepped in and bought the stock of the troublesome Sonoma County Railroad for $45,000. Donahue envisioned the revenue from the lumber shipments, which would sprout railroads that stretched from Petaluma, Santa Rosa, Healdsburg, and Cloverdale. Donahue, along with his Irish workers, established a railroad that covered a span from San Francisco to Santa Rosa. Within 2 years, the railroad formulated into the San Francisco and North Pacific Railroad, extending to Cloverdale. However, Donahue's plans of making Petaluma the terminus of the railroad and running through Main Street was dismissed. He organized the San Francisco and North Pacific Railroad to stop in East Petaluma. Wickersham went on to establish the Sonoma and Marin Railroad, consisting of the Petaluma and Haystack Railroad, continuing on the tracks to Novato. However, this railroad went bankrupt, which led Donahue to purchase the Petaluma and Haystack and the Sonoma and Marin Railroads to add to his growing San Francisco and North Pacific. From here, Donahue quickly expanded to San Rafael, across the Petaluma River, installing a drawbridge in 1903 so there would not be an obstacle for boats traveling up the river. In 1885, with the death of Peter Donahue, the San Francisco and North Pacific was extended to Ukiah. In 1907, under his son's guidance, the San Francisco and North Pacific was changed to the Northwestern Pacific Railroad. Today there are plans to restore the historic railroads that stretch from Marin north through Petaluma. The railroad will link many counties. A new bridge crosses the Petaluma River at Haystack Landing, and the SMART train stretches from Sonoma to Marin County. The railroad will run 70 miles from Lake Spur to Cloverdale.
The Northwestern Pacific Railroad, a pre-World War II system of intricate travel, was deemed ahead of its time. It was located at the head of navigation on the Petaluma River, where rail and water meet, and it has been said that Petaluma is the chief shipping point for the magnificent Sonoma County. It is unparalleled in its abilities and opportunities to ship goods, for the only silk mill west of the Mississippi was in Petaluma. Both the Petaluma River and the NWP Railroad played a part in its shipping, for the product was shipped to the east, all parts of Mexico, South America, British America, and Australia. The Northwestern Pacific Railroad depot was built in 1914 on the site where railroad magnate Peter Donahue had constructed an earlier railway line from Donahue, a port on the then Petaluma Creek, to Cazadero and the Russian River. Donahue is little more than a ghost town below Lakeville today. Peter Donahue had previously brought the first railway to San Francisco in 1861. He bought the existing Sonoma County Railroad and by 1871 had a regular service, its route including Petaluma. However, passenger services ceased in the 1940s and the NWP continued to use the building as a freight office. The depot still sits on Lakeville Highway. The railroads were heavily relied upon and looked forward to because they offered a chance of fortune, whether by shipping poultry out of the area or by bringing people to the Golden State in a golden country. Spanning approximately 300 miles, the Northwestern Pacific Railroad runs adjacent to the Russian River. It ran 6 passenger trains daily each way between Petaluma and San Francisco, and this railroad at one time extended from San Francisco to Eureka. Rail traffic provided the Petaluma area with markets and transportation for more than half a century, and it is beginning to reappear with the introduction of the SMART train. The Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit will provide rail service along 70 miles of the historic Northwestern Pacific Railroad track, connecting past history with the promise of future success along the same path.
The Petaluma and Santa Rosa Railroad was founded in 1903 by Rudolph Spreckels, an industrialist, financier, and reformer from San Francisco, and by John A. McNair, one of the most important figures who made Petaluma what it is today. The railroad and its 300 by 300 foot turning basin right on the river made Petaluma the hub of trading goods from the Bay Area to Northern California. The first spike was driven in April 1904. The first regular electric railway schedule for the 600-volt DC train was established on November 29, 1904. The rail started from where Hunt and Barron's is on Lakeville Street today in Petaluma until eventually go side by side with the Redwood Highway. From Petaluma all the way to Forestville and Santa Rosa was the 23.8-mile railroad delivering goods all over the Bay Area and Sonoma County. The railroad was constructed to establish a stronger trade network from the Bay to even farther north than it has before. It also connected the train and trolley business with the steamboat network as well. The Petaluma and Santa Rosa Railroad was bought by the Northwestern Railroad Company in 1928. The rail service ran all the way through 1984 when it was finally abandoned. The rail service is discontinued today, and you can see a restored Petaluma Santa Rosa Railroad car at the Western Railway Museum.
The boom of Petaluma began in October of 1776 with the first recorded exploration by Captain Fernando Quiros. The city of Petaluma, California was settled in 1850 along the banks of what it is now known as the Petaluma River. It is believed the name of the town means flatback hills in the language of Miwok Indians. According to Simone Wilson, writer of Petaluma, Petaluma had roughly 2,500 inhabitants in 1871. Wilson explains that although Petaluma was once a small industrial town, it is now home to the modern society of 59,440 people. The town was incorporated in 1858, making it the oldest city between San Francisco and Eureka. This reveals the historical background of Petaluma and the importance of its roots and for what it is now known as today. But without the exploration of curious citizens through San Pablo Bay to the Petaluma River, the town would likely not have been discovered. Its prime location from several rivers and links to bridges and ferries creates a central location upbeat exploration atmosphere. The Petaluma River enters San Pablo Bay as a dredge channel through the northwest and is now accessible through the San Pablo Bay, Northwest Petaluma River, California State Route 37, NWP, US 101, D Street, Washington Street, Lakeville, Payran, Corona, Petaluma Boulevard North, and Rainsville Road bridges. Ferries that primarily pass through the Petaluma River include the Gold and Petaluma ferries. According to Matt Brown of Argus Courier, contractors last week lowered into place the new rail bridge over the Petaluma River. completing a key piece of infrastructure in the Sonoma-Marin Area Transit Project, or SMART project. This reveals that Petaluma is continually changing and modernizing its transportation and popularity to becoming a major city rather than a small town. For example, the SMART project in Petaluma will add a train with intent to take residents from Santa Rosa to San Francisco and all cities in between in a compromised time to decrease traffic on the freeway.
With the history of Petaluma's foundation on its back, it now holds to what is one of the greatest exploration hotspots in the Bay Area. Whether you travel by sailboat, motorboat, or kayak, Petaluma is ready to welcome you. With a natural labor in the heart of historic downtown, boaters can tie up at Petaluma Turning Basin and find themselves within dozens of excellent restaurants, unique shops, antique stores, movies, and live entertainment. No wonder that Petaluma was selected as one of the top 10 Bay Area leisure boating destinations. Many concerts occur along the river. According to Julie S. Lee of the Press-Democrat, the river also hosts many events as well as recreational activities such as River Town Revival and Butter and Eggs Day Parade, and leisurely activities like boating, rowing, fishing, and adventuring through the historic downtown and delicious restaurants surrounding the river.